Now, I want to start by saying if you're a regular viewer to the channel, this might not be the video for you, but it may go away to explaining as to why my upload schedule and the videos I've been uploading recently have not been as regular and have probably not been as good. But I want to do this because I just think it may help some. If it helps one person to not do what I've done all my life, and I'd be quite happy with that. If I can help one person with this and they hear what I'm doing and they feel the same way and it makes them sort of take control a little bit, then I'm going to do it. But let me start by giving you a bit of background. I'm a 30-year-old man, and that is an interesting fact, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? But I'm a 30-year-old man, and probably since I was about the age of maybe 3 or 4, I've always known that when I compare myself to other people, when I've been around other people and interact with them and genuinely been myself, not worried about what people think, people are not the same as me. People do not behave in the same way or don't process things, think the same way as I do. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, you be the judge of that, but I've known this all my life. I've known it from a very, very young age. I'll give you the first example of when I knew this. I was probably 4 years old, and I brought a picture home that I drew from school for my mum, and I'd shown it to her. I said, "Look at this picture, Mum." And she said, "Oh, that's brilliant. That's fantastic, that picture." So I thought, right, I'll bring another one home. So I brought another one home the next week that I'd drawn at school again, and she said the same thing again. She said, "Oh, that's fantastic. That's brilliant, that picture." So I thought, well, hang on a minute. The last one was brilliant. This one was brilliant. Well, they can't all be brilliant because I've looked at other people drawing. I'm definitely not good at drawing. I know that. I can compare what I'm capable of doing to other people, and I know that drawing is not a skill I have. So what I did was, I was at school and I drew a picture that was purposely bad. I purposely drew it. I mean, I'm not a good drawer anyway. It was really bad. I mean, even I looked at it after drawing it and thinking, this is the worst fucking picture ever. Who'd be happy with that? And I brought it home to my mum and I said, "Mum, what do you think of this picture?" And she said, "Oh, it's brilliant. It's fantastic." I said, "Well, it's not though, is it?" I said, "Because it purposely did it badly and you're still saying it's great." I said, "And even if the ones that I drew before were good, if everything's great, how can, do you know what I mean? It doesn't work like that, does it? You have to have bad things and average things for something to be great, and it's definitely not great." That was probably the first warning sign at about 4 years old that I probably don't think in the same way that other people do. Where am I going with this, though? That's the big question. Throughout all my life, again, I've known this fact, and there's been many, many things in life. I'm not going to tell you my life story, but that's probably the best example I can think of, and probably the earliest memory I can think of where I realised that the way I process and think of things is not the same as everybody else's. And I also realised that if I'm brutally honest and relaxed and be myself, people tend to get upset with things I say, because it's not because I'm trying to be nasty, or it's just because I'm brutally honest. And despite knowing this, I've never really sort of got help or seen anybody medically qualified. Now, that is partly down to me, because as I've gone through life, things were kind of easier if I kind of didn't acknowledge that this was a thing. And I kind of just sort of thought, well, I'll try and blend in with everybody else, because I think I do a decent job at it most of the time. But the problem with that is, because I do that a lot, I can only do that for so long. When I'm around people and interacting, it's like a really hard job. Like every job I've had throughout my life, the actual work part of it has been good. And the people I've worked for have been nothing but pleased with my work and, you know, how I apply myself, and I don't skive off, and I'm purely focused on the job I'm doing, which most people aren't. Most people want to have a chat and go off. I'm just more interested in turning up, getting my job done and going home and doing it the best I can. And like I said, most people are impressed with my work. But the problem is, it's the other side of things that I struggle with. So, whereas most people, I think, find the work tedious and boring in whatever job it is, I don't mind it. I could do it all day. It's easy. I said it's the bit where somebody who I work with comes up and wants to have a chat with me that I struggle with the most, because it's like I've got to put this sort of act and routine on to blend in and sort of appear as a normal person. And the problem is that I'm quite good at it. So that person may want to speak to me more then and go, "Oh, this guy's alright, he has a laugh and that." But the problem is, the more that goes on and goes on and goes on, it starts to drain me, and I have to get away. It's weird. It's like I can keep this up for so long, but I really don't want to talk to people. I really don't want to be around people. It's not because I hate people. It's just because I've had to learn this behaviour to sort of, I don't know what the word is, sort of appear as if I'm part of. I'm the same as everybody else. There's no difference between me and the person stood next to me, and really there is. So I've had to go through this all my life, and the problem with that also extended to school. And I'd always get to the point where I'm at a point of burnout around people, because I can't keep this up any longer, and eventually I'm going to have to just be myself, and I start getting more and more irritated and annoyed. And at that point, it doesn't matter what the consequences are of just walking away and getting away and saying, I'm done, I'm finished, that's it. It doesn't matter what the consequences could be anything. The consequences could be, if you don't get enough money, you're supposed to be working. If you miss a wage, you might end up fucking with no money, homeless, whatever. It doesn't matter what the consequences are, I'm walking away. At that moment, I am walking away. It doesn't matter. There's no bigger problem on earth. And I've gone through this probably all my life. I've had some quite good jobs in my life. I worked for a bank for a little bit. There was probably talk of promoting me. I was getting on really well. But again, the same thing happened again. The interaction with people. Also, it was over the phone as well. That did me head in, because that's one big sort of performance, isn't it? When you put the phone in your ear, you can't just be honest and tell people you're fucking annoying. You can't do that. That's just reality. So, pretty much every job at that point comes where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be around people. I need to get away, and I pack it in. And that's why at the age of 30, I've never held down a job. The record's 2 years. I had a job where I didn't have to interact with people too much. But even that, I was off sick quite a lot, and because I just couldn't cope. But again, it comes down to I've never got help for this, and I have tried a few times. A few times over the years, I have been to the doctors, and I have kind of said, well, trying to get the words out. But the problem is, I hate talking about myself. I feel uncomfortable, even with my close family. I feel very uncomfortable talking about me and talking about the way I feel in my head, because in a way, it's the opposite of what I've learned to do to sort of get on in life, to sort of blend in with the people, So it's almost like a defense mechanism to not talk about what's going on in my head and what's going on, So I've always avoided it. So even sometimes when I'd sit down with the doctor and they'd say, what's the problem? I'd just be like, blurt something out that sort of half tells them what's wrong with me, but at the same time doesn't give the full game away, which is pretty stupid when you go into the doctors trying to get help for this thing that has plagued you pretty much all of your life. And I'll just go, I feel a bit fed up, and they'll go, oh, you're a bit fed up, have these antidepressant tablets or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm not taking them because I'm not depressed. Well, I might be fed up, but it's more because I'm in a predicament. And again, I think the reason I never got help as a young child, because a lot of kids that I went to school with maybe had something similar to what I had, but the difference between me and them was, if they were having a bad day, they wouldn't sort of leave. Everybody would be exposed to that bad day, and they'd affect everybody else and annoy everybody else and disrupt their learning. And I'd never want to do that. I'd always want to go. I think, well, if I'm going to ruin somebody else's day, like, I'd rather just deal with this on my own and just go home. So I did that a lot at school. I just used to go home halfway through the day. I'd just think, I can't do this, I'm going. But in a way, I wish I was like the kid that didn't go home and disrupted everybody and was basically an annoying bastard. I mean, there's no other way to describe it, but in a way, I think they were the smart ones, because they were disrupting other people, and those other people said, well, that behaviour's not normal, we need to get that kid some sort of evaluation or help. And that's what had happened, and they get diagnosed with fucking, I don't know, ADHD or something. Now, I'm not necessarily saying I know what I've got, but recently was the first time I actually went into a doctor's surgery and didn't do what I always do, and that's to play it down, that's to not really share my thoughts and what's going on. And I just blurted everything out. I went mental like I am today, talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour, saying, oh, there's something not right with me, I've always known, and I can't hold down a job, this, that and the other. And eventually I got added to a list. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I had to see a mental health nurse after that, and I had a bit of a thing with her where she was asking me questions, and she asked me to fill in this sort of questionnaire thing. And now I've been referred to go and see somebody who's like highly qualified, who'll speak to me and then probably be able to tell me, oh, you've got this now. You're probably thinking, well, why does it matter? Why does it matter that you get this if you do have something like that and you get diagnosed with it? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. And I had this conversation with a mental health nurse, because she said, well, you might not have something, it might just be the way you are. And I said, no, but you don't understand, like, the way I am around people. Like, I can't cope with people, it does me head in. And I need to sort of be able to tell a boss when I start a job, hey, look, I work hard, you know, I get on with my job fine, but sometimes just leave me alone. If I'm not doing anything wrong, like, if I'm doing something wrong, come over and say, hey, you're doing that wrong. I said, but otherwise, just leave me to it. I don't want to speak to people. And she said, well, you can just tell them that in the job interview. And I'm like, well, I've been through quite a few job interviews. I don't think without any sort of diagnosis, me just saying, by the way, don't come over and talk to me. I can't stand you. Do you think they're really going to give me the job? It's not going to happen. So, as sad as it is, I need that piece of paper. So at least when I start a job, I can tell them, hey, I've got, you know what I mean, whatever it's called, sore tummy disease. That's not what it's called, but you understand what I'm saying. And they can say, oh, well, we can accommodate you for that, because they have to by law or whatever. And I'll say, well, look, I'll work harder than everyone else, but just leave me alone. But yeah, that's it. But the problem is I've waited so long in my life. I'm 30 years old. I'm in no better position than was when I was that child who brought the drawing home. It was a shit drawing. And I wish I'd kept it just to show you. I mean, that's the worst drawing you've ever seen. But the point of doing this, I mean, at the moment, I'm just really struggling. And I'm not going to make this a habit of doing videos talking, oh, my mental health and all this, but I just feel like because my heart's just not there at the moment. I feel very down. I've got no motivation. I'm not somebody that if I'm not really motivated to do something, I can force myself to do it. I probably could force myself to make videos and do what I normally do, but if it's not going to be as good as it can be and my heart's not in it, I really don't want to do it. So I've got some stuff backed up that I'll upload. I've got a few formulas. I might do a couple of matches. But for the next couple of weeks, I just need a break to refresh my fucking brain because I'm going a bit crazy. But there's a point to this video, and I've got to the point. We're nearly 12 minutes in now, but I want to say to anybody that maybe a bit younger than me, you might even be a bit older than me and feels that way. Even you might even be really young, and you think, well, the best way to deal with this is to just, you know, act like there's no problem. And I'm not saying problem because I genuinely think the way I think sometimes is better than the way most people think in some respects. In other respects, it's not. I may go into the ins and outs of that, and if people are interested in this, but I don't think they necessarily will be. But the best thing you can do is take that step to get help, because now I'm on a waiting list, and I might wait 2 years. I'll be 32. I mean, I've got a letter from them saying you've been referred to this person. It's a really nice, happy letter. It says this is going to take a long time. Now, I only know it takes roughly 2 years because I've spoke to people who've been through similar stuff. And they've basically said that, yeah, I had to wait about 2 years before I even got in to see this person, which is a bit shit, but that's reality. But the letter doesn't say that. It just says this will take a long time. And then there's a number for Samaritans. Now, if you're not from the UK, Samaritans is basically, if you feel like ending everything, then give them a call. So, very optimistic letter there. That's the only sort of resource they give me is to phone them. I'm not that bad, you know. I do feel down. I do feel hopeless, but I'm not doing anything like that, you know. But yeah, the advice I wanted to give really, if you are younger, you might be older, but don't put it off because, you know, I'm 30 now. When I was 18, I had a pretty good, that was the job I stayed in for 2 years. I'd saved like 20 grand up. And back then, houses were probably, you could get an house for less than 100 grand. And I was thinking about getting a mortgage. And you know what, if I'd have been able to stick with that job and if I'd been able to keep working, I'd have probably by the age of like 24, 25, I'd have probably owned my own house. Which, not knowing what we know now, which is house prices everywhere have like fucking quadrupled, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I always think what place would I be in if I'd have got help from a younger age and been able to manage whatever this is that I've got. And it's not saying there's anything wrong with me. I think I just think differently to most people. There's a different way of approaching things and things like that. But if you don't seek the help and don't find out what it is, you'll be caught in this endless sort of doom loop that I've been caught in since a young age. And it's not that I'm not capable of doing these jobs. You know, I was always in sort of the top classes at school and stuff. I'm academically capable. I've done physical jobs where I've been very quick and very efficient. It's not a case of I'm not capable. It's just a case of it's the other side of things that people take for granted that I struggle with, and the bit that everybody struggles with normally, I find easier. But if you never get the help, you're just going to be like me. And that's the message here, kids. Don't be like me. You know, get some help. Whether you don't like talking about it, just take the push, because you're going to be if you feel miserable now, if you have a period of feeling miserable because of the predicament you find yourself in. Believe me, when you're 30 years old, when you're in no better position, when you can't hold down a job, you've got no money, you know what I mean, you're wearing the same clothes for years, you're just in a really depressing situation. It's going to get worse, and it's only going to keep getting worse unless you try and find a help. So that's the message for today. I'm probably not going to make a habit of doing videos like this, but unless something goes crazy and like more than 1,000 people watch, but I heavily doubt that'll happen. If there's one person watching still, thanks for watching this video. But yeah, that's about it. If you're interested in SmackDown vs Raw 2006, and I make various characters for that, that's sort of my little hobby that I've got at the moment. And I do enjoy it. It's kind of like my therapy while I'm caught in this sort of limbo situation. So if you want to check any of that out, I do some pretty interesting matches as well. We've just had Diddy against Moist Critical in a big match. Moist took on EDP 445. We've had Michael Jackson against Jake Paul. We've had all sorts of various wacky matches. If you're interested in that, stay tuned. But apart from that, thanks everybody. If you did listen to the end, well done. You deserve a fucking Medal of Honor. But that's about it. I'm going to try and get the schedule back to normal at some point, but I'm going to wait until I get that urge to do it, because I want it to be as good as it can be. And if I do it at the moment, it's not going to be. So I'll probably be coasting for the next week, just uploading stuff I've had pre-planned. Hopefully it'll get back to normal. But yeah, that's about it. I'll actually end the bastard video now. See you later.